Have you ever seen like a video online and you're like, wait a minute, is this real? I know I have. In this day and age with deep fakes and like misinformation everywhere, it can feel impossible to know like what's real and what's been manipulated. So today, we're diving into a fascinating idea from Bludau. And it could like change all that. A way to verify the authenticity of photos, videos, audio files. Yeah. And get this, it's based on a system you probably already use for email.
That's right. We're talking about OpenPGP, Open Pretty Good Privacy, which uses cryptography to ensure the security and integrity of messages. And Jan proposes we apply this to multimedia files. It could be a game changer for how we approach digital trust.
Okay, so for those who might need a quick refresher, how does OpenPGP work?
Okay, so imagine you're sending a letter, but you want to be absolutely certain that only the intended recipient can read it and that it arrives untouched. OpenPGP is like adding a unique lock and key system to your message. So you have a private key, which you keep secret, and a public key that you share with others. Anyone with your public key can encrypt a message that only you can decrypt with your private key.
Right, and there's the signing part too, which is like adding a tamper-proof seal. So you know the message hasn't been altered in transit.
Exactly. The sender uses their private key to create a digital signature, which is mathematically linked to the message content. So if even a single character is changed, the signature won't match. And that reveals that the message has been tampered with.
So how would we apply this to, say, a photo? I mean, it's not like there's text to encrypt in an image.
That's where it gets really clever. The proposal is to use a hash function, which basically creates a unique fingerprint of the entire image file. This fingerprint, or hash, is then signed using the creator's private key.
So even the tiniest change to the image, like adding a filter or cropping it slightly, would completely change the hash and therefore invalidate the signature. That's pretty cool.
It is, and think about the implications for journalists working in sensitive environments. Imagine being able to prove without a doubt that a photo or video hasn't been doctored. It could be revolutionary for investigative journalism and holding powerful figures accountable.
Wow, yeah, that's huge. And what about other file types? Could this work for videos, music, or even voice messages?
Absolutely. For video and audio files, the signature could be embedded directly into the existing file format or attached as a separate file, like a digital certificate of authenticity. Think of it like a museum, placing a unique identifier on a valuable artifact to prove its origin and prevent forgeries.
This whole idea of digital signatures for media files, it's so simple,
Yeah.
yet so powerful. It really makes you rethink how we approach trust in the digital world. Let's be realistic. Would this really be practical on a large scale?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And Jan Bludau acknowledges there are hurdles to overcome. One of the biggest is standardization. For this system to work, we need a universally recognized standard for how these signatures are implemented and verified.
Right, like we need to agree on the language of these digital signatures so that different software and platforms can understand each other.
Precisely. Imagine if every country had its own unique electrical outlet. It would be chaos. The same principle applies here. We need a global standard to ensure seamless compatibility across the digital landscape.
Okay, so standardization is key, but let's say we figure that out. How would everyday people actually use this? I mean, not everyone is a cryptography expert.
That's another challenge Jan addresses, user-friendliness. He envisions integrating OpenPGP signing and verification directly into the tools we already use. Imagine being able to sign a photo right within your favorite photo editing app, or adding a signature to your latest track in your music production software.
So like a sign with OpenPGP button right next to the save button. That would be amazing. It would make this technology accessible to everyone, not just tech wizards.
Exactly. And for verifying signatures, he proposes simple tools and browser extensions that could automatically check the authenticity of a file. You wouldn't need any technical expertise. It would be like those green lock icons we see in our web browsers that indicate a secure connection.
I like that. A visual indicator that gives you that instant sense of trust. Okay, let's dive into some specific use cases. We talked a bit about journalism, but what about the music industry? I mean, artists and musicians are constantly battling piracy and unauthorized distribution of their work.
This could be a game changer for them. Imagine a musician being able to embed a digital signature directly into their music tracks. This would provide irrefutable proof of ownership and make it much harder for someone to steal and profit from their work without permission.
All right, it's like having a built-in copyright protection mechanism.
Right.
Right, within the music file itself. That could be huge, especially for independent artists.
Yeah.
Who might not have the resources to fight legal battles against copyright infringement.
Absolutely. And it goes beyond music. Think about photographers, graphic designers, filmmakers, any creator whose work can be easily copied and distributed online. This technology could give them a much-needed layer of control and protection.
And speaking of digital content, what about NFTs? They're all about proving ownership and authenticity in the digital realm.
You're right. OpenPGP signatures could add another layer of verification to NFTs, further strengthening claims of ownership and potentially increasing their value. It would be like adding a tamper-proof seal to a digital certificate of authenticity.
Okay, so we've got artists,
Yep.
journalists, NFT creators, all benefiting from this. What about everyday people? How could this impact our daily lives?
Think about all the sensitive information we share online. Medical records, financial documents, legal contracts. Imagine being able to digitally sign these documents to guarantee their integrity and prevent any unauthorized alterations. It could revolutionize how we handle sensitive information in the digital age.
Wow, yeah. That's a whole other level of security. But let's circle back to deepfakes for a moment. Even with a signature, couldn't someone still manipulate the content itself? I mean, they could still doctor a photo or edit a video before signing it.
That's true. The signature itself wouldn't prevent someone from creating a deepfake or altering an image in the first place. But here's the crucial point. Any alteration to the file after it's been signed would immediately invalidate the signature. So while someone could still create a fake video, they wouldn't be able to pass it off as an authentic signed one. It's like putting a tamper-evident seal on a product. If the seal's broken, you know if something's wrong.
So it's about detecting tampering after the fact. It wouldn't prevent the creation of fakes, but it would make it much harder to spread them undetected.
Exactly. And it would also raise the bar for those creating deepfakes. They would know that their manipulations could be easily exposed, which might deter some from even trying.
Okay, that makes sense. But wouldn't it be possible for someone to try and forge a signature, like create a fake signature, to make a deepfake seem legitimate?
That's where the robustness of OpenPGP cryptography comes in. Creating a forged signature that could pass verification is incredibly difficult. It would require immense computational power and time, making it a highly impractical endeavor for most malicious actors.
So while it's not a foolproof system, it adds a significant layer of protection and makes deception much harder.
Precisely. And this is where the concept of trust networks comes into play. Imagine independent organizations, like cybersecurity firms or reputable news outlets, acting as trusted verifiers. They could add their own digital signatures to content they've independently verified, creating a chain of trust. That further strengthens the authenticity of a file.
That's a really interesting idea. A network of trusted sources vouching for the integrity of content. It would be like a digital seal of approval from experts we already rely on.
Exactly. And this leads us to another fascinating aspect Jan touches upon, the potential role of blockchain technology.
Blockchain. The technology behind cryptocurrencies. I've heard it touted as a solution for everything these days. How would it fit into this picture?
Blockchain is essentially a decentralized and immutable ledger. Imagine combining OpenPGP signatures with blockchain technology to create a permanent and transparent record of a file's origin and every signature it has received.
So every time a file is signed or verified, that information would be recorded on the blockchain, creating an unalterable audit trail.
Exactly. It would be like a digital notary service on steroids, providing an irrefutable record of a file's history and authenticity.
That's pretty mind-blowing. It really seems like we're talking about a potential paradigm shift in how we approach trust and verification in the digital world. But I have to ask, if this system became so widespread, wouldn't that create a massive amount of data? I mean, every file would have these signatures attached to them.
That's a valid concern. Storage and bandwidth considerations would definitely need to be addressed. But remember, the signatures themselves are relatively small. We're not talking about adding gigabytes of data to every file.
Okay, so it wouldn't necessarily cripple our internet infrastructure.
Right. And as technology advances, storage and bandwidth costs will continue to decrease, making this less of an issue over time. It's a challenge, but not an insurmountable one.
Okay, so we've talked about the technology, the potential benefits, and some of the challenges. But let's address the elephant in the room. Even if we have all these technical solutions, wouldn't we also need laws and regulations to support this system?
Absolutely. Jan emphasizes the need for a robust legal framework to address the complexities of deepfakes and digital manipulation.
So we're talking about things like requiring digital signatures for certain types of content, like official government documents, news broadcasts, Or political ads.
Exactly. Or perhaps laws that hold platforms accountable for the content they host, especially if they fail to implement adequate verification systems. We need legal teeth to back up these technological solutions.
Because without those legal teeth,
Mm-hmm.
it's hard to enforce any kind of system, no matter how good the tech is.
Precisely. It's a two-pronged approach. We need both technological innovation and robust legal frameworks to truly tackle this challenge.
Okay, we've covered a lot of ground here. We've explored the potential of OpenPGP for multimedia, the hurdles we need to overcome, and the need for a multifaceted approach that includes technology legislation and public awareness. What are your final thoughts on all of this? Do you believe this concept has the legs to stand on, to really make a difference in the digital world?
I do. While there are certainly challenges to address, I believe this concept represents a significant step towards a more trustworthy digital future. It empowers individuals, protects creators, and provides a powerful tool against misinformation.
Yeah, it's not a silver bullet, but it feels like a really solid step in the right direction. It's inspiring to see these kinds of innovative solutions emerge, especially when trust in the digital world feels so fragile.
It is inspiring, and it really highlights how we can adapt existing tools and technologies to address new challenges. We often think about cryptography in the context of cybersecurity and protecting sensitive data, but this application to multimedia really opens up a whole new realm of possibilities.
It really does. It's like we're expanding the scope of digital trust beyond just data and into the realm of creative works, news, and even everyday communication. But as you said, it's not just about technology. It's also about awareness and education. People need to understand how this technology works and why it's important.
Absolutely. We need to empower individuals to be more discerning consumers of information. That means teaching them how to identify manipulated media, how to verify sources, and how to demand greater transparency from the platforms they use.
Right. It's about cultivating a healthy skepticism without falling into the trap of complete distrust. And that brings up an interesting point. Could widespread adoption of this technology actually help restore some of the trust that's been eroded in the digital world?
I think it has the potential to. Imagine a world where you can see at a glance whether a photo, video, or audio file has been verified by its creator or by trusted third-party sources. It would provide a level of transparency that's currently lacking online.
It's like bringing the concept of fact-checking into the digital realm in a much more robust and verifiable way.
Exactly. And think about the implications for social media platforms. If they were to integrate OpenPGP verification into their systems, it could significantly reduce the spread of misinformation and fake news.
It wouldn't be a perfect solution, of course. People could still choose to believe what they want to believe, regardless of evidence. But it would make it much harder to spread falsehoods without being called out.
Absolutely. It would shift the burden of proof. Instead of having to debunk every false claim that circulates online, we would have a system in place that provides instant verification, making it much easier to separate fact from fiction.
That's a powerful idea. So to wrap things up, it seems like we're standing at the edge of a potential turning point in how we approach trust and authenticity in the digital world.
I believe we are. And while there are challenges to overcome, I'm optimistic about the future. The combination of technological innovation, legal frameworks, and public awareness could create a digital landscape that is far more trustworthy and reliable than what we have today.
Well, that's an incredibly hopeful note to end on. To our listeners, we want to hear from you. Do you think OpenPGP for multimedia could work? What are your thoughts on the challenges and opportunities we've discussed? Until next time, keep diving deep.